All right. Hello again. Welcome to Astronomy Time here with UACNJ, United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. First off, I want to thank everyone for coming. I want All right. Can people hear me now? Hopefully that's good. All right. So, as I was saying, tonight's presentation is What's Up in the March Sky with Lonny Buinis. Lonny Buinis has presented live astronomy talks for UACNJ since 1994. He's been an amateur astronomer since age 10, when he regularly spotted pterodactyls flying through this view in his telescopes. Lonny respects practical over book knowledge, but figures some of you might want to know why we should believe anything he says. He holds degrees from Stevens Institute of Technology in physics and computer science. He is a member of the International Association of Astronomical Artists. The Lonny Buinis Observatory was dedicated at UACNJ in April of 2016. Now let's see if Lonny is only making up such fanciful creations as the winter hexagon, the winter triangle, a stellar birthplace, and a beautiful rose. As we see what's up in the March sky. And welcome, Lonny.
Thank you very much, Kim, and I'd like to thank our team at UACNJ for all their help in making these presentations possible online. We'll be returning to our regularly scheduled live and in-person presentations April through October, and I hope that you'll join us for not only the first Saturday of each month when I give these What's Up in the Sky talks, but also every Saturday of the months April through October. So we'll start by introducing the UACNJ, as I like to call it, the United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey, great umbrella organization for all kinds of astronomical activities in the state. You can, if you wish, pronounce it differently. I like UACNJ. You might like UACNJ or UACNJ, whatever it takes for you to remember. Let's find out what's up. When you visit in person and see me there and other lecturers on a Saturday night, April through October, we do show some information like this, some reminders about what's available in our gift shop, extensive gift shop, by the way, fascinating place. There's a little museum next to it with all kinds of history and imagery. And of course, campsites and things like that are available. So do visit. We'll bring this slide up when I talk and others talk about what's up in the sky and other topics in person. But for now, we're going to start with some activities, interesting things that happened last month. On the 18th February, you may all be aware that your tax dollars paid for a mission to land on Mars. The latest number 17 of all the landing and crash sites on the planet Mars was successful, and that's the Mars 2020 mission with its rover, the biggest yet of any rover to another planet, the Perseverance rover. There's no R, by the way, before the V. That's a mistake I always make. And this is a picture of the rover as it's descending from a sky crane that lowered it to the surface just before the landing stage flew away for safety. And here's one of the first landscapes from the Perseverance rover. Very exciting. Go on jpl.nasa.gov, look for current missions, Mars 2020 or Perseverance. And it's very exciting. They've got imagery up already. This rover comes equipped with a helicopter for the first time. It's actually a kind of a drone, double helicopter, double-bladed rotors that work in the very, very thin atmosphere of Mars, about 1/100th the density of ours, maybe less. But it's very exciting. They tested it, it works. It's going to be doing some reconnaissance. Now, if you want to find out what's up in the sky anytime in the past, present, or future, if you just remember seasky.org on the website, SEASKY, Sea and Sky, and look for the Astronomy Reference Guide, you can get a calendar of all the events that are going to happen throughout the whole year. And if you click on Astronomical Calendar at that Astronomy Reference Guide, there's lots of stuff. You could easily get lost, look for star parties and clubs and other things. But click the calendar and choose your year, and you'll come up with a list of events that start to look like this. And we're going to begin by looking for the innermost of the major planets. How many major planets are there, by the way? For you musicians in the audience, we'll be testing you later with the number of constellations in the sky, especially piano players. How many notes in an octave? Well, that's the number of major planets right now. We've eliminated Pluto, and that's a minor planet, considered to be a minor planet. 8 planets. Mercury, the innermost, is best visible in the morning because it's west of the sun. So think about facing south. If you get up nice and early in the morning before sunrise, the sun's going to be on your left in the east. West is to the right of the sun, right? So western elongation, 27 degrees, best time to see Mercury, happens to be March 6th, today. So get out there, too late. All right, so try tomorrow morning, try the day after. Don't be discouraged if the sky is cloudy, if there is something interfering, don't be discouraged, keep going out there. That's how you learn the sky. That's how I did it when I was back in the Jurassic, probably the Triassic, that came earlier, era. Now, if you want to visualize this a little bit more easily or see what it looks like from space, you could use this free program, celestia.space, from which you can download and install this on a computer, on a laptop, maybe a tablet, or you can just run it live at sourceforge.net. All right, either of these addresses. I've been using Celestia for years, and it looks something like this. And I'm going to ask members of the audience to alert our technical team, Jeff, Chris, and Kim, if there are any technical problems and you don't see what I'm talking about. They're a Cracker Jack team, and they'll help get things back on target. All right, so if you don't see, let me know. We're looking overhead at the solar system right now at this very minute. Celestia works in real time. Down on the sun, 2.5 astronomical units up away from the sun. The distance from the sun to Earth is 1 A period U period astronomical unit. That's the yardstick that astronomers like to use instead of miles, because 93 million miles is just too big, and it's really too hard to visualize how much that is. The Earth is 8,000 miles. Human beings can visualize dozens or hundreds of miles, but thousands is hard, millions just about impossible. So we take that standard distance, 93 million miles, and we see that the Earth and the sun line up at almost a right angle to the planet Mercury. Mercury is to the right of the sun. And so that's what it looks like from space now. But over time, Mercury moves much faster than the Earth around the sun. We can speed up time in Celestia like this. Getting dizzy yet? And we can see over time that Mercury lines up behind the sun or to the other side. All right, so it's the most difficult planet, major planet, right, of the 8 to find because it's so close to the sun. It's always going to be found near the sun, and that means you have to look when. Time for the audience to ponder. I see people taking notes. Good. Anybody have pencil and paper? Anybody remember what a pencil and paper is? Or a pen? Obsolete technology. All right, so if you're taking notes or if you're looking stuff up furiously on your smartphones and tablets as I talk, you'll see that the innermost planet, you've got to see that at sunrise and sunset. So that's what celestial looks like. How about the moon? Where do we find the moon? The moon, as it orbits the Earth, is sometimes going to be seen in the sky near the sun and far from the sun. Now, when I say near and far, I'm talking about the angle that it makes with the sun, the apparent location in the sky, not real, because the moon is 400 times closer to us than the sun. Then why does it look the same size? Why do we have eclipses? Because the moon covers the sun occasionally. It's the same apparent size, even though we know that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. So by coincidence, the moon is lined up right now so that human beings can see it cover the sun once in a while. That's not going to be true for any more than a few 100,000 years. So we're lucky to see it this way now. There's a great movie about a guy who travels back in time, Danny Kaye. It's about King Arthur's court. See if you can find the name of the movie. And he happens to know when there's an eclipse, so he can wow the local populace with his knowledge of magic. So the new moon, best time to look at the dark sky and see what we call deep sky objects, we amateur astronomers. Now, I'm not a professional astronomer. I don't do what I'm doing for money. I do it for love. And so do the dozens of amateur astronomers at the United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. So do come and ask them a lot of questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. We love questions. That's why we love to do what we do, which is help you, the members of the public, get a better grasp of what's going on up in the sky. So if you want to find out the exact time that the moon lines up with the sun but doesn't cover it, just misses, we are using UTC, Universal Time, the time at London at the Greenwich Observatory, 10:23, and they are 5 hours ahead of us, right? As the Earth rotates into the sun, England comes up first, then the whole Atlantic Ocean, and then Canada and the US, right? 5 hours. So 10 minus 5 is, mathematicians in the audience, 5:23 in the morning. Big date on March 20th. That was March 13th, new moon. Just a week later, we've got the equinox, equal days and nights. Equinox literally means equal nights, which occurs in 9 minus 5 equals, right? 4:27, our time in the morning. The sun is crossing in the sky. It appears to cross the celestial equator, which is the equator of the Earth, if you could draw it out into space, intersecting the main sign of winter, which we're not talking about anymore because we have left winter into spring, and that's Orion the Hunter. The equator of the Earth out into space crosses right through Orion the Hunter. Equal days and nights, that's the vernal equinox. There is an autumnal, autumn equinox in the fall. And then finally, the end of the month, we have the full moon, which is the absolute lousiest, as we say in scientific terminology. We amateur astronomers, we like to make ourselves feel important by using jargon, the lousiest time to observe faint objects in the sky like nebulas and star clusters and galaxies. We'll talk about each of those. Worst time to see them because the moon's light interferes. But there are some bright things you can see. Street lights, your neighbors when they forget to close the curtains, and planets and bright stars and an occasional rabbit, which I saw on my walk last night. Believe it or not, there's so much snow melt and there's so much grass out there and it's green that rabbits are out 8 o'clock at night eating. I surprised one. So I said hello. I walked to the other side of the street so the rabbit could continue to eat a late night snack. The moon has some very colorful names for each month, named by Native Americans and others. This one is the worm moon of April. Why? Because the ground softens, the worms come up. Also known as crow moon, crust moon, sap moon, lenten moon, very poetic. Seasky.org has all these names for each month. You can cheat if you wish and look ahead to the next months when I'll be talking about, you guessed it, what's up in the April sky. So to see all this in a more interesting form than static images and slides, why don't we use this free program, which now Celestia is a way to simulate views while you're in space at other planets and other moons of planets, and even outside our solar system. You can even leave the galaxy in Celestia. But what I want to do is look at the sky as seen from the Earth. And I can't point my laptop camera out the window. I could, but you wouldn't see much. So we're going to simulate the sky with this simulator called Stellarium.org. If you want to download it and install it, it's free. It's in version, you know, I always wonder about this, version 0.20.4. You know, I've been using this Stellarium for years now. Started with version 0.16. And my big question, as might be yours, is when? When are they going to get to version 1 already? But it is free. It's open source. Anybody, any programmer can contribute to it. Some of you programmers out there, some of you young coders might want to try your hand at adding to Stellarium. Comes in all kinds of versions for every operating system. And even on the web, it's stellarium-web.org. So Google it, Yahoo it, DuckDuckGo it. Is that a verb? DuckDuckGo. The other day I DuckDuckGo'd my name to see if I was out there. I don't know, verbs have become very clumsy lately, haven't they? So let's take a look at the sky as simulated in Stellarium. Can you see my planisphere-like view of the sky? Well, if you buy a planisphere, oh, shameless advertisement, we do sell these at UACNJ Observatory at Jenny Jump in Hope, in the middle of a state forest. You can buy them, they're cheap, and they come with lines so you can tell what the constellations are. And they rotate around the North Pole so you can see the sky any time of day or night. You can rotate the whole chart like that. Except in Stellarium, you can also do something a flat map can't do. You can zoom in and find a famous constellation in the Northeast right now that looks like an animal with a head, claws, and a long tail. This is actually wrong. What's wrong with this picture of Ursa Major, the bear large? What's wrong with this picture? Do bears have long tails? There's an interesting legend. I believe it's an Iroquois legend. The Native Americans who hunted the bear, one time a brave warrior caught the bear by his tail and hurled him into the sky, lengthening the tail. In another legend, there were 3 brave warriors which make up the tail, following the rest of the bear and shooting an arrow into the bear, so that in the fall, when the Big Dipper or the Great Bear is low in the sky, he bleeds on the trees and turns them red. The fall red colors. Good explanation. Very poetic. Big Dipper, you might recognize the Big Dipper. And if you click on a star in Stellarium, it identifies these stars, especially the pointer stars, Alpha Ursa Major, Alpha Uma, and Beta Uma, Beta Ursa Major. All right, we still use the Greek letters and the Arabic names, Dubi and Merak. The Arabic astronomers during the Dark Ages, about 1,000 years ago, kept astronomy alive. We still use the names that they applied to the brightest of the stars. This one has a special name because, can you guess? Polaris. Whoops, sorry. I got ahead of myself. I actually want to point with the pointer stars 5 times their distance apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Polaris in the Little Dipper, which in the real sky looks much bigger. And that is very close to where the Earth's North Pole is pointing right now. It's actually a little bit off, about where my arrow is there. But it's close enough. Alpha Ursa Minor Polaris tells us where the North Pole is, and the constellations will circle around the North Pole. We call these constellations that never set and never rise and just go around in circles, circumpolar constellations. Can you find 5? Big Bear, Little Bear, Dragon, King, Queen, Cassiopeia, Cepheus, Draco or Draco, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, the circumpolar constellations. And why do we call them that? Because if in Stellarium you were to speed up time like so, you could watch over an entire night as the sun rises and the constellations just spin round and round, never setting. I'm going to go back to a reasonable viewing time, March 6th tonight, not 6 in the morning. We can watch the sun go across the sky, it gets darker and darker. 18, we're in military time. What's 18 minus 12? That's right, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. it gets pretty dark, right? Some of you younger members of the audience can stay up till 8 or 9, right? Go out, that's how you'll see the sky, the way we began my talk. So those are circumpolar constellations. It's good to get used to learning the sky by starting with something easy in the north. Some of you, like me, live where there are houses and trees. You might have difficulty seeing the lower part of the sky, especially the dragon this time of year. A lot of interesting stuff happens in the south and west. The west is where the sun sets, and so does the rest of the sky. Why? Why is everything going down and setting? Is the sky rotating around the Earth? So quite the reverse, right? The Earth spins once every 24 hours approximately. 23 hours, 56 minutes, and so many seconds, if you want to be really precise. But if you look in the west, you'll find the constellations of winter are disappearing. So you go out, right? Go out tonight, tomorrow night, look for the big red letter W, right? Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of people in the audience nodding. Is anybody paying attention? I am lying, you know. Once in a while, I'm just making stuff up just to see if anyone's paying attention. Yeah, there's no letter W out there. You're going to have to figure out where the directions are from a compass or from the North Star. The North Star always points towards north. Look for the Hyades and the Pleiades. The Hyades and the Pleiades. Some of you might be fooled into thinking you see a Little Dipper. Another one, a second Little Dipper, much smaller. There is the Hyades star cluster and the Pleiades star cluster. The star cluster is on the order of a few hundred light years away. This star cluster is older. It's on the order, it's closer, between 100 and 200 light years away, relatively close. The nearest sun-like stars are 10 to 40 or 50 light years away. All right, so this is much further. A light year being the distance light travels in a year. Yes, light, even though it's the fastest thing in the universe, is pretty slow. Takes about 3/4 of a second to get to the moon, 15 minutes to Mars when it's closest. It's terrible. Why couldn't the speed of light be faster? That is my main complaint. Why couldn't light be faster? We're going to have to apply exotic technologies like warp drive to overcome that. This Hyades star cluster is the face of a famous zodiac constellation. Can you guess his name? with his bright red eye star Aldebaran. Aldebaran. It looks reddish or orangish in the sky. The colors in stellarium are not very strong, but the human eye is capable of seeing colors in the night sky. They're just kind of weak. Now, the interesting thing over the next month or so is that there's not only a bright red star that twinkles, but one right nearby these two clusters that doesn't twinkle. And it's a planet. The planet Mars, rival to Antares. So see if you can see the difference between a planet and a star. Beautiful star cluster here, the Pleiades. These were born very recently. They're still glowing. They're glowing in the blue light. They're hot young stars burning through their nuclear fuel much faster than the sun, 1,000 times faster. Our suns have been around for 5,000 million years. That's 5 billion. These stars only maybe a few hundred million years. And then they will exhaust their fuel and expand enormously and then contract to become dwarf stars. But you can still see the gas they were born from, the bright gas lit up from their bright blue starlight. Beautiful. This is a long exposure photo. When you see the Pleiades in the sky with your eyes or a telescope, you might see only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars. Some of you might see 7 or 8 if you have sharp eyesight. Try it. It's a good test. Look at them in binoculars. Look at them in a small telescope. Look at them in a large telescope. Come to Jenny Jump. Come to the observatories and look at different things in the sky like this cluster in different telescopes to see how the view changes, right? It's good to get used to different ways of looking at things. You know, perspective is good whether you're talking about astronomy or philosophy or religion or history, isn't it? And the sky can help give us perspective on how small we are in the universe and yet how clever to have figured out some of these things. If I back up a little bit and look to the east, I'll see Orion the Hunter, most easily recognized constellation, I think, in the entire sky, with its bright knee star, Rigel, Beta Orionis. Alpha, the orangish star, Betelgeuse, 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 Betelgeuse. There are about 8 different ways to say this star. Any fans of the movie Beetlejuice? That's my favorite pronunciation. What do you get when you step on a beetle? No animals or insects were harmed in the making of this talk. I did not step on any beetles. I don't recommend it. The beetle is a marvelous creation. It's a fantastic mechanism, which we're only recently trying to replicate with our little miniature drones, someday which will be the size of insects. Please respect the intricacy that went into the creation of the beetle. And just think Beetlejuice. Don't step on any. In binoculars, this is a spectacular region of the sky to look at. Look at the 3 belt stars of Orion, 800 light years away, almost 2,000 light years away, 900. These stars are, some of them are close together in a cluster, some are further away, and they apparently line up. But one apparent thing that's really cool is the sword that dangles from Orion's belt, because even in binoculars, you can tell that there's something unusual happening here. There's a deep sky object that looks like a fuzzy blob. What is that? Well, if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that it's something called a nebula. Nebula, a cloud. Astronomical term for a cloud. This is a cloud of gas that's forming stars like the gas that made the Pleiades, but here it glows red instead of blue, and blue up here. Blue from starlight, but there's 2 other things here. There's red. That's the light of hydrogen gas, the most plentiful substance in the universe after smog in New Jersey and humidity. The most plentiful thing in the universe is humidity from New Jersey. And then there's hydrogen, which is everywhere. And there's these dark holes. What are these holes? They're actually not holes at all. They're dark dust hiding the starlight behind. And this dust is collapsing to form solar systems. How do we know this? It's not just theory. We can actually see it happening We have photographs of disks of dust collapsing and forming planets for the first time since I was a young child back in the Triassic time when dinosaurs were my friends. My wife says I am a dinosaur, and I am. I've been around a while. Some amateur astronomers have been around long enough to see stars forming. It's a very exciting time to be alive to see all these changes. If you back up a little bit, we can take a look at the overall picture of the constellations in the winter sky and see the winter hexagon, Rigel, and Antares. We saw those already. We haven't seen Capella in Auriga the chariot rider. He looks just like a chariot rider, right? Yeah, I see all of you vigorously nodding yes. To me, he looks like a pentagon. And they're the baby goats that ride on his chariot. One of these, Zeta Auriga, is a gigantic red star, so transparent that its dwarf companion, a white star, can be seen shining through it if you were to visit that star. The winter hexagon, let's do it again. Rigel in the hunter, and Antares, the eye of the bull. Capella and Auriga, Pollux and Castor in Gemini. You know what Gemini is, right? Sign of the zodiac. Procyon in the small dog. Sirius in the big dog. Winter hexagon, all different colors, which indicate different temperatures, right? Reddish stars are cooler than the sun. Yellow stars about 10,000 degrees Celsius or Kelvin. And Rigel, bright blue stars, 20,000 and up, very hot, right? Almost as hot as a New Jersey summer. So you can tell the temperatures of stars just with your naked eye. By the way, that's another technical term that we amateur astronomers like to use, the naked eye. You were born with it. If you're lucky enough to have vision, use it, appreciate it. And learn, you can learn about the sky just using your eyes. You don't need fancy equipment. You can start with binoculars. Those are less expensive than a telescope, although there are some inexpensive telescopes available. So I mentioned Sirius, the dog star, second brightest star in the sky, second brightest star. What is the first? Is it in the winter sky? Nope. Is it in the summer sky? Nope. Fall? Nope. Spring? No. It's in the daytime sky. You guessed it. Sol, S-O-L, Latin name. Look it up. The winter triangle are just these three bright stars, and it's actually pretty big. If I were to expand things the way they really look in the sky, to get the proper angle, I can't even get all the constellations to fit. Betelgeuse, Procyon, little dog, Sirius, big dog, winter triangle. If you were to go to the left of Orion and look for Monoceros, mono means what? One. Ceros, rhinoceros, rhinoceros. Rhino is nose. If you have a rhinovirus, you have a cold in your nose. Ceros, horn. Rhinoceros, nose horn. Literal translation of a rhinoceros's name. This is the unicorn, Monoceros. Monoceros. Monoceros? If it's rhinoceros, why isn't it monoceros? That sounds like something Dr. Seuss would say. Take a look right here, this fuzzy thing in Monoceros. What is that? It's a harbinger of spring. After the snows fall, we have April showers, which I'm going to talk about in my next talk. You'll never guess the name. What's up in the April sky? April showers bring May flowers. And this is one of my favorite nebulae, plural of nebula. This nebula is the rosette. The rosette. You see the resemblance? Beautiful. These are pictures that have been grafted into the program taken by amateur astronomers. You can find these deep sky objects if you look hard enough. You can even search for them like this. So if I type rosette, find, it centers, and then you can just zoom in with your scroll wheel or your fingers like that. There's lots to see in the sky, but time is growing short. And so let's take a look, a little preview of the stars that come up in April. Because the sky changes over time. Why is that? Why does the sky change? If you look at the sky every night, the same time, let's say 9 o'clock if you're in the summer, because it takes time for things to get dark, 8 o'clock in the winter, you go out exactly the same time every night. After a month, you're going to notice that Orion is shifted to the right. Yep, shifted. A whole 1/12 of the sky. What's 360 degrees divided by 12? Quick, quick. 30 degrees. 30 degrees. Right, so that's 1/12 of the whole sky. That means that you get a new sky to look at every few months, right? Different season of the year, you're looking in a different place. Why? Because the Earth is revolving as well as rotating on its own axis, it revolves around the sun. So we're looking at night away from the sun in different parts of the sky, 4 different directions for each of the 4 seasons. So in the spring, you're going to look for something that comes in like a lion. What would come in like a lion with its bright star Regulus, the lawgiver, and Alpha Leonis? Yep, you guessed it, a lion, one of the signs of the zodiac. The lion helps us find our way around the sky. And in fact, if you were to bend your head backwards while facing south, right? So I'm facing south. Well, let's face southeast this time of year. If I were to bend my head backwards to the north, I could find the Big Dipper. I'd get a crane neck, and I would use the Big Dipper's pointer stars, whoa, to make everybody completely dizzy. I'd use the pointer stars to go past the North Star and keep going in a line. Well, no, I wouldn't do that, would I? I would go the other way, away from the North Star, and I would come straight to Leo. But I would do this looking backwards, facing south, because Leo would be in the south in spring. So that's one way to find your way through the sky. It's called star hopping, right? Using one group of stars to find another. We amateur astronomers invented that. We're going to take credit, not the professional astronomers. They're too busy doing science, mathematics, looking at specific objects. We amateur astronomers, we look at everything. And so can you. And you can be an amateur astronomer just by going out tonight or tomorrow night or any night this month and just using your naked eye, right? Get out there, take a look. It's a lot of fun things in the sky. One thing you can find also by tracing the signs of the zodiac, you can find something called the ecliptic. And with the sky viewing options in Stellarium, I can turn on the ecliptic, which is the path that the Earth makes around the sun, drawn out into space. Why is it important? Because the solar system is pretty flat. Most of the major planets, except Mercury, follow a flat plane, the same plane as Earth around the sun. It's kind of like peas spinning around in a circle around the center of a dinner plate, right? A flat plane. Most of the planets can be found moving along this line through the signs of the zodiac: Taurus the bull, Gemini the twins, Cancer the crab, Leo the lion. Anybody hallucinating? You see a crab there? You don't see a crab? Come on, use your imaginations. See that? I should mention, if you can find the crab, get a pair of binoculars, if you can, and look for a fuzzy spot. We call this the fuzzy spot in the crab in scientific terminology. It's actually the beehive cluster of stars. Many stars are born together and stay tightly packed by gravity, holding on to each other in a cluster. That's called the star cluster. And some of these stars are hundreds of light years away, 600 light years, 300 light years. But if you click on any one of them, mostly around 600 light years away. Kind of hard to get a feel for how far away things are. The galaxy on a whole, what we can see is about 100,000 light years across. 100,000 light years, arranged in arms of stars called spiral arms. Take a look at a picture of a galaxy, and some galaxies have a spiral shape. The nearest spiral to us is about 6,000 light years away. It's the location of a fictional planet I wrote about in a novel. And I'll let you know when that gets published. So these are the signs of the zodiac, including Leo the Lion. You see that? Where the sun goes, where the moon goes, approximately, where the planets go. Important to astrology. And so our astronomy began with the study, the close attention astrologers paid to where the sun was. Now, the sun was in the constellation Sagittarius when I was born in December, but my sign is Capricorn, which is wrong. It's actually off by an entire month, and that's because the Earth is shifted on its axis like a wobbling top. Lots of cool stuff about the sky. Look up precession. Go to Wikipedia. All right, so we can do a quick review of the sky. If we look up to the south, let's say we start in the south. It's very easy to get disoriented, isn't it? But you can always get oriented by Orion in the winter and Leo in the spring. Each season has a main constellation to help you remember where things are. Orion in the winter, spring comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb. In the summer, there's a scorpion, and in the fall, a flying horse, Pegasus. And I'll be talking about all of those in future What's Up in the Sky talks. So come on back next month for What's Up in the April Sky. We'll be doing it live at Jenny Jump Observatory, UACNJ observatories. I should say observatories plural. There are multiple buildings with multiple telescopes, and amateur astronomers have their own telescopes out on the lawn. So you can look through a dozen instruments in one night. Do visit. That's Stellarium. Let's wrap things up a little bit here. And oh no, a review. Test. Were you paying attention? Are you sorry now? All right, now not to panic. What you want to do is go out every night in the southwest, like tonight, and you'll notice that Betelgeuse is red, right? By the way, do you know what Betelgeuse means translated in Arabic? Until about, 15 years ago, I mean, for all my childhood, I was told it means the shoulder of the giant, Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse. No, I looked it up. The literal translation, armpit of the giant, the armpit. The red star in the eye of the bull, and the red planet Mars. Now watch what happens in just 11 days. Where is Mars now? March 6th, 8 p.m. Watch Mars near the Pleiades. It moved close to the Pleiades, now about halfway between the Pleiades and the bull's face, the Hyades. The sky changes with time. And so if you go out and face south in the middle of this month, it's going to look very different if you do that at 9 p.m. the same time next month. What happened? All right, March 15th, Orion, the winter triangle. What happened? The Earth went around the sun a little bit further. We look the same time. The Earth, as it rotates, it bypassed that part of the sky, and now we're facing further east. So the sky changes, and that's why it's a good idea to learn the sky throughout the year by coming to UACNJ or UACNJ. So what's up in the sky for March? March 6th, look for the innermost planet in the morning. March 13th, look for deep sky objects, galaxies, especially those nebulas like the Rosette or the Orion's Great Nebula in the Sword, M42. March 20th, equal days and nights all over the entire Earth. Spring begins, first day of spring, officially. And then finally, the end of the month, the full moon ruins everything. Oh my goodness, no good. You can't look at faint objects, but you can still see planets. You could still see bright stars. You could look for double stars. You could still come out and enjoy the sky at UACNJ. Now, you didn't think you're getting away without homework, did you? UACNJ.org. Remember that web address. If you forget everything else I've said tonight, UACNJ, say it with me, UACNJ, UACNJ, United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. You can join by joining one of the many astronomy clubs in the state of New Jersey. We actually have some members from nearby states as well. So it's a pretty big organization. I've been giving talks since the United Astronomy Clubs got started back in 1994, and I hope to continue to do this because I have so much fun with you, making jokes and telling you things that I've just made up. Everything I've said tonight, complete lie. Not one thing is true. Check it out for yourself. For those of you who like print magazines, they still exist. They've been in existence for decades. Sky and Telescope and Astronomy are written for you and me, for ordinary people, not astronomers, not scientists. Very easy to understand. And they're all online with subscriptions, but they do have huge parts that are free. I've been using those for years, both magazines, the print, and online. Programs and apps, there are dozens. We talked about Stellarium and Celestia, but I found just these 10 free apps for phones, for smartphones and tablets.
Hey, Lonnie,
Yes, question.
are we supposed to be on a screen where people can see the resources? Because currently
You know
I'm
what?
looking at
Yeah, you know what
Stellarium.
happened? Yeah, I think what happened was that in the share, it actually got lost because I went to a different mode. So hold on just a second. I'm going to reshare my screen
Gosh.
with, oops, wrong. Well, pardon us, folks, technical difficulties. We'll have it solved in a second. Okay, I've turned that off and I'm going to look for, can you, no, you can't. Well, someday I'll get the hang of this. Someday. How about now? Can everybody see a list of websites? If you can't, let me know. Well, I hear nobody.
Oh, we're on a homework page now.
Very
Sorry.
good. Yeah,
and took
that's
a
got the,
hot second
yep.
to update.
All right, that'll have our website, uacnj.org, links to magazines, the programs that we talked about that I used tonight, both Celestia and Stellarium, and programs like Skyview. I've used that, where you can hold your phone or tablet to the sky and it will align to what you're looking at using the GPS locator system in your device. But there are many, many programs. Look at this. Here's 10. There are several dozen. You can pay for various versions. And finally, I belong to an organization of an international organization of astronomical artists that got started in the 80s, IAAA.org, where you can find my website and those of other artists. There are only a couple hundred in the world. And that is astronomyinmotion.com, where I shamelessly advertise my interactive book, where you can move planets with your hands and fingers or any pointing device and solve mysteries interactively. You can be an astronomical detective. All right, I'm working on a new virtual reality planet Mars, a 4K resolution planet you can play with, zoom in for tremendous detail, and learn about 28 different links, including all 18 landing sites, including the new one coming in May, the Chinese Tianwen-1. We've already seen about the Perseverance that landed just last month. There are videos narrated by my wife, Jan, that link to that model, and that will be available for sale later this year. But that's enough about me. And now you talk about me. Whoops. I mean, I want to say thanks for being a very patient, understanding audience. Thanks for putting up with our technical glitch. I want to also thank Jeff and Chris and Kim for making this possible technically, because we have a lot of technology that has to meld together for all this to work. And I'm hoping that all of you will come back for one of our Saturday night talks at Jenny Jump. I call it Jenny Jump, also UACNJ, also United Astronomy Clubs. And especially, I'll be doing the first Saturday of each month, 8 o'clock, live and in person. You can come and meet me. I can meet you. You can question everything I say. Please do, because I am just making it up as I go along. Thanks very much. You've been a great audience.
All right. Thank you, Lonnie, for a great talk. We are going to do a question and answer session right now, and we already do have some questions in the audience. The first question is the Andromeda Galaxy visible to the naked eye?
That's a great question. Now, depending on where you live, there's something called light pollution that scatters from the lights of cities and industries into the haze in the sky. If you come to UACNJ, to the observatories, we're in the middle of a state forest and we're protected against development. So it is one of the darkest sites to observe in the state of New Jersey. And so therefore you can, and I have done and seen the Andromeda Galaxy with the naked eye. Best time is in the later spring. And it looks like it's actually bigger in size than the full moon. It looks like a little oval of fuzzy light. That's a great question. It is the farthest thing in the universe you can see with the naked eye. 2.5 million years ago is when the light left. It's 2.5 million light years away. Multiply that by 6 trillion if you want the number of miles. Very good question.
All right. The next question is, which is bigger, the Andromeda or the Milky Way galaxy?
That's a very good question. For some time, astronomers have known that Andromeda is somewhat bigger than our galaxy. They're very close in size. But what they didn't know until recently is that there are so many faint stars that have now been seen by orbiting observatories that the number of stars in the Milky Way is no longer 100 billion. That's a 1 followed by 11 zeros, right? Or 100,000 million. It's more like 1 trillion stars, 10 to the 12th power, 1 followed by 12 zeros. And Andromeda is even bigger. They thought that was 1 trillion stars. That's perhaps 5 or 10 times more. And the two galaxies are on a course to merge eventually. They're actually moving towards one another, just as the small galaxies around us have been swallowed up by our Milky Way, some of them. Some have passed all the way through and come back out again. Those are the clouds of Magellan, if you've been lucky enough to visit the southern hemisphere. But our galaxies, Andromeda, which is bigger, and our Milky Way are going to merge in, don't hold your breath, 3 billion years. Good question.
Ask the audience if they have any further. I noticed that Marcus had answered that the Andromeda galaxy can be seen UACNJ.
If you want to bring
But while we're
binoculars with
waiting
you,
to see if
yeah, I'm sorry, Kim. If you
we
visit
do actually have
UACNJ,
one more question.
yeah, bring your binoculars, bring your little
Um,
telescope. Go ahead.
all right. The question is, will you bring? So far, I'm actually going to answer this one. So far, our plan is to open based on a reservation system.
Kim, you might want to repeat
That
because
the
you're dropping out a little bit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you're hearing everything, but I'm losing some audio, and you might also.
all right. Just 1 second. How about now?
Loud and clear.
All right. So the question was, will UACNJ be open to the public again at Jenny Jump this spring? And I'm actually going to take this question. UACNJ is planning on opening again starting the first Saturday of April. We are hoping the snow will clear by then, uh, so we can get some parking back. Because currently our parking areas are under quite a bit of snow still from the storms we had several weeks ago. Um, since we are opening as we closed last year, which are under COVID restrictions, so it is a lower amount of people we can allow on the premise. We are going to be doing that through a reservation system. Um, Pay attention to our Facebook, to our website. We'll be posting links and whatnot to our reservation system so that we can safely open. And also, you'll see, since we are doing the lectures outdoors to start, it will be dependent on whether we have clear weather. So as long as it is not raining and storming, so we can have the lecture outside and we can actually get some of our parking area back from the snow, we should be able to open come April. But regardless of whether we are open physically on the property, we will be live streaming the talks, especially since we are uh, not allowing quite as many people on the site as we would normally do if we did not have a pandemic going on. So I believe that question's answered. So a next
I have lost audio. Let's see, we do have a chat if anybody wants to write in chat.
Switching to a different microphone.
Oh, very good.
All right. Can people hear me now?
Oh, very good, Kim.
All right. So the next question is, what is your favorite constellation?
My favorite constellation. Well, I have to say, wow, that's, I hadn't really thought about it. I worked in the planetarium field for many years and I had to know a lot of them. I talked about all of them, but I suppose Scorpio or Scorpius, Scorpio is the zodiac name. The astronomy name is Scorpius is one of my favorites because it's in an area where there's so much going on. And it's also very close to what it's supposed to look like, a scorpion. But I have to say that's been replaced recently because in writing my science fiction novel, the alien comes from a planet that's the twin of Earth, and it happens to be located in the direction of Gemini, the twins. So I have to say it's close between Gemini and Scorpius. Check out Scorpius when I talk about what's up in the July sky and what's up in the August sky. Good question.
All right. One last question, it looks like. What should we look for first in the March sky?
Good question. The first thing is Mars in the west because it will rapidly disappear as the days go by. Remember, the constellations are drifting to the west or right as you face south. So they're going to be disappearing first. And I always like when I go outside to look first in the west because those things will be going down as the sky gets later and later. I would recommend enjoying the beautiful colors of the winter hexagon and winter triangle which are just about southeast or slightly right of south now, and see if you can find the backwards question mark for Leo the Lion. Check it out. All right, there are star charts. There are free star charts from Sky and Telescope, Astronomy magazine. You can get them just about anywhere. Do a search. Use that verb. Google it or DuckDuckGo it.
All right, that appears to have taken care of most of the questions. So I want to thank you, Lonny, for a great talk again.
Thanks. And I'd
I
like to
just want to
thank
ask.
Jeff and Chris and Kim for all their hard work. And actually, we have dozens of amateur astronomers who volunteer their time for year after year after year. Please go and bother them when you visit UACNJ. And whatever you do, don't kick their tripods and telescope mounts. You'll make them cry because they spend a lot of time setting up their scopes so that you can enjoy the sky. So thank you, everybody. Thanks.
All right. So thank you, audience, for joining us. We want to, if you enjoyed this presentation, please hit the like and